I'm Jen with Hidden River Creative, and today I'm going to be using the Spellbinders 13 Days of Craftoween box Day 1 dies to make this cute, this cute little tag with these ribbons. It's a shaker tag. How fun is that? So if you want to see how I made this, stay tuned.
Okay, so here I have my day 1 dies. I already made a really quick, cute little card with these, but now I want to make a tag. So that's what we're going to do today. So I just die cut out my little vampire here. I'm going to ink blend onto him with some industrial diamond, fresh dye ink from Altenew. I have tons of these little ink cubes. Altenew has so many colors, so it was a really economical way for me to get a lot of ink colors for not a ton of money. So I have tons of these little cubes. So I didn't want my little vampire to be all one color. So I'm just making his hair and the top of his cape a darker color, and then his little legs there at the bottom. And then I'm going to come back in with some pure graphite and just really make his hair black so that there's some contrast between his body, his cape, and his hair. So I'm just going to keep kind of ink blending onto the bottom here. And you'll see later that I have to completely pivot from this die cut design anyway, but for right now, that's what he looks like. And he will not make it to my tag. RIP, little vampire. So now I've got some pale mauve, and I thought that might be a good color for his skin. I don't know, it looks a little sickly, I guess. Anyway, I'm just going to ink blend a little bit onto his face and his little hands there. How cute are his little hands? I love them. I don't know what it is about like tiny little die cuts, but they're just so cute to me. So now I'm just going to color in his shirt with some deep iris. I really like this color of purple. And for some reason, when I think of vampires, like the cute little vampires, I think black and purple. I don't know why that is. It's been ingrained in me somewhere, I guess. For his tongue, I am using Cherry Sweet. And then here I come with my arches again. You know, I love an arch. I just cut out a whole bunch of arches from some heavyweight white cardstock. This is 110 pound. And I am going to use that as my backer. And then that smaller arch that I showed you in the previous clip was to create the shaker border, the frame. So I am just coming in with some ink colors here. What are they? I don't know. What is this color? I missed it when I put that cap on. Oh, Dark Night. That's a really dark blue color. I like it a lot for skies. And then I'm going to come in with Midnight Violet just under that. I really like using a dark blue, a purple, a pink, and an orange for a Halloween sky background. I don't know. I think it just looks cute. So I'm just going to blend it in that color order from top to bottom, trying to overlap each section as I go. This pink I have here is Rubellite. So that's going to be my third section here. Again, just overlapping with the purple before it. And I'm just roughly inking that on. It'll dry back a bit, but I don't care if it's uneven. I mean, it's a sky. And it'll be mostly covered by my vampire and shaker bits anyway. And then my orange layer is going to be Autumn Blaze. That's a really nice orange for Halloween, in my opinion. So now my backer is done. I'm going to clean that up. And then I cut a few of my frame layers from just a dark gray cardstock. And then I'm going to come in and try to create some shadow on it just around the edges here, just for some dimension and some interest. I didn't want it to look so flat. You'll see that I cut 2 layers out of dark gray and then another layer out of white. I have no idea why I cut a layer out of white. I think maybe I was thinking because I cut it out of a heavier weight cardstock that it would be more sturdy, but I could have just cut more layers from the gray cardstock and made my life easier, because what happened is when I glued them together, I could see the white behind that darker layer, and I ended up having to ink blend black onto that, but you'll see that in a few minutes. So there I was just trying to get an idea for how my little vampire was going to be positioned on my shaker window, and then I'm just going to come in and glue him together. Again, all of this is completely wasted effort because I didn't end up using this guy because he just didn't stand out enough in my opinion. But I'll just keep putting him together here, struggling a little bit. I'm using my reverse tweezers. If you don't have reverse tweezers, please go get some. They are so handy, especially when you're dealing with little die cuts like this, because I mean, I have small fingers. My fingers are skinny, but it's still difficult sometimes to position these things without making a huge mess. So these reverse tweezers make it so much more simple because you don't have to pinch them together. They pinch themselves. That's why they're called reverse tweezers. And then you can just easily position your little die cuts like I'm doing here. So invest in multiple pairs, because if you're like me, they will just walk away and you'll lose them over and over and over again. Now I'm just gluing on his little hands on the end here. OMG, they are so cute. So tiny, so cute. So there's a little guy. And so now I'm going to adhere my acetate piece to the back of this frame. I'm just using some double-sided tape here so that I don't squish glue out on all the sides. My double-sided tape is a little bit wider than my frame piece, but I did this in a previous video. I will just kind of fold that excess piece back over and it's no big deal. So I'm just going to keep going around and folding my excess tape over, and then I will lay that down onto my acetate piece so that I create my shaker window. By the way, these arches are the Spellbinders Essential Arches collection, and I am using the 7th largest and the 9th largest die to create these shaker frames. So I'm just bringing in my Altenew scoreboard so that I can line this up perfectly, because if I don't, I will for sure mess it up. So now, what am I doing? I ink blended that one frame and then I just put it right over the top. But anyway, that was a lot of wasted effort. But as you'll see, you can see the white frame that's underneath. So I'll end up ink blending some black onto that to kind of hide that a little bit. And here I'm just pouring my shaker bits onto there just to see how they'll look. And it just looked a little too dark. These shaker bits are the ones that came in the Craftoween kit itself. So I just added some Moonlight confetti embellishments from Trinity stamps to kind of lighten up that a little bit. And then I am taking my adhesive foam for shaker windows and I'm just going around the outside of my frame to create some dimension so that my shaker bits can actually move around in my window. I'm just going to pour those in there and then remove my adhesive. I'm going to apply a little bit of glue to that as well so that I have some wiggle room to get that perfectly lined up. And then I'm going to take my little vampire here, and I realize that his cape doesn't stand out enough. So I'm like, how can I make this worse? Oh, let me ink blend some more dark ink on here so that it looks exactly like his cape and stands out even less. So let's just keep going with that and waste a whole bunch of time. So I'm going to keep going around the outside with this pure graphite Altenew fresh dye ink. And oh, look, exactly matches. So here I cut him out again, went back in with my pale mauve to color in his face and his hands. And for his body, I just cut him out of a lighter gray cardstock so that it stood out a little bit more against that shaker frame. And then I will just ink blend a little bit of pure graphite back onto this little die cut to create some dimension. I'm really just using a little bit of the leftover ink from my brush, and then I'll come back in and darken that up a little bit more. So I'm just making his legs black, I'm making his hair black, and then I'm just creating a little bit of shading onto the bottom of his cape. And that looks so much better. So then I'm going to come in with my deep iris again, color in his little shirt, get that all done, and then his tongue, I'm going to take that cherry sweet again, ink that up, and then I can start adhering him back together so that we can get this tag done. So I'm going to take my liquid glue and my reverse tweezers, and we're going to put him back together once again. And my daughter will be so excited because even though I could use that previous one I put together on another card, I'm just going to give it to her because as I was making this, she kept coming in and asking if she could take it. I'm like, no, I'm making a tag. I can't have this die cut. I'll make you one later. So she gets the one I sort of messed up. Now it's time for my sentiment. I'm just grabbing a sentiment from the one that was included in the kit and an acrylic block. I'm going to put that on there and then ink it up with my Versafine Onyx black ink. I'm going to stamp that down and then I'm going to trim it down to apply to the front of my tag. And then here, if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know that I have used the Haunted House dies from Spellbinders, the bat die that comes with that set, to cut out some little bats to use as embellishments. So I'm just taking some of the ones that I've had left over from previous projects and seeing which ones I like the most. I started with a pink glitter cardstock one. I didn't really like that very much because it didn't stand out enough in my opinion. Have a light gray one there. And then I'm going to try this black. And I was like, oh yeah, we just need to use the black. So I'm going to take 3 of those, position those around my sentiment like so. And then once I'm happy with my placement, I'm going to grab my liquid glue and start adhering things down. So for my vampire, I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue on his wings there where they touch the frame, and then a little bit on his head so that there's no danger of it oozing out the sides. And then I'm just going to take some leftover ink from my black ink blending brush and come around the edges of my sentiment just to distress it a little bit. And then I'm going to adhere that down also with some liquid glue, being very conservative. I'm just going to position that just behind his head, and it's going to stick off of my tag just a little bit because I thought that looked nice. So I'm going to stick that down, and then I'm going to grab my bats and my Altenew Perfect Picker tool so that I don't have to use my fingers. And then I'm going to adhere those down with tiny dots of liquid glue. And I'm going to struggle because this tag was a struggle. Even though it looks so simple, I didn't think it out enough in the beginning. And then once I finished my tag, I was like, great, it's done. Wait, no, it's not. It's a tag. It has to have a ribbon on it. So then I had to figure out how to attach my ribbon. And for my ribbon, I am using this bundle of trim ribbon that I got from Michael's a couple years ago because it was on sale, not because I had a plan for it. So this is the first time I have ever used it in the 2 years that I've had it. My husband will be so proud of me because he says I have too many things. So, hey babe, I know you're watching. Look at me using my stuff. So I'm just grabbing a white cardstock strip to kind of create a loop on the back of my card to hold that ribbon in place. I'm going to trim it off so that you can't see it. And then I am going to use another piece of ribbon to adhere all of these ribbon pieces together. Adhere? No, we're not adhering. We're just tying them together. Goodness gracious. So I'm going to tie a tight knot as close to the top of that tag as I can. And we are done. Isn't it cute? I love this. It's a nice little shaker tag that's going to be fun on a treat bag or a little cute Halloween gift. So if you enjoyed this video, please do give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. I'm going to be making some more tags using this Craftoween 13 Days of Craftoween box, so stay tuned, and thank you so much for watching.